Well, just because something happens historically doesn't mean it's going to happen again. Yesterday it rained. Does that mean today it's going to rain? The conditions that resulted in rain, the barometer conditions, the moisture or whatever, that stuff resulted in rain, but conditions today aren't right for rain. SPY down 1.3%. Some firmness here. Again, the sample size is big, but it's not really a sample size thing. There are bigger sample sizes. For example, the Roman Empire, the Netherlands, the Dutch Empire, the British Empire. You have a size effect. As a small country, it's easy to grow, easy to manage. As your country gets bigger and bigger and more sprawling, there's generally more fraud, theft, grift, bribery, things like that. Your systems become unwieldy, very hard to manage. People put their priorities above the country's. It's hard to root these things out, and all empires fail. Japan is a good example. China may be a good example right now. China in the past was a good example. Dalio writes a lot about this. Look, I'm not saying I'm bearish on the US, but you have to open your eyes and see that we have a big deficit problem. We have politicians that just want to give money out and cause inflation and cause more deficits. And if we stop it, we're going to have lower growth. A big part of that growth that you're talking about has come from deficit spending. If you got an economics degree like I unfortunately did, you can think about what's the equation that creates stock price changes. So stock delta, what's it coming from? Okay. Well, we know that generally stock prices follow their earnings, okay? So we can kind of work backwards. So maybe the answer here is, okay, earnings, long-term earnings. So what's that a function of? It's sort of a function of two things, kind of revenue and costs. So we'll take these independently, okay? So revenue, well, this to me seems like GDP, right? I mean, all the revenue combined. I'm not talking about Microsoft or somebody that's growing faster or really well adept, but if you think about all of the revenue, how fast is all of the revenue growing? Basically, a GDP. And what is nominal GDP is irrelevant, right? Where all we care about is real GDP. So real GDP over the long run seems to be around, what, 2%? And real GDP is mostly a function of what? Productivity, right? So you can basically gauge success in economic activity with productivity. And productivity may be going up because of AI, for example. XKO knows CGI. So costs seem to have the same dynamic, right? They're, maybe a function of inflation too. But in general, I mean, margin is the question here. So let's say you have a 2% increase in revenue. It's a 102. I don't know, your costs are 80. So they go to 80. Let's see here. let's do 80 times 1.02. We'll get this exactly right. 16. So let's say you had 20 million in net income, or whatever arbitrary number we're talking about here. You would have, let's see, 0.4, 20.4, right? And 20.4, this is a clean 2% increase. So if your costs go up 2% and your earnings go 2%, your revenue goes up 2%, your costs go up 2%, your earnings go up 2%. So you hope to get some leverage on your costs, and maybe that's where your productivity comes in. Or maybe instead of 81.6, it's, I don't know, just 81. Or something like that. In which case, if it were just 81, your earnings would go up 5%. Now, earnings going up 5% could mean that stock prices go up 5% a year. But it's hard to see real stock prices go up any more than, something in this like 2 to 5% range. And then if productivity goes up, but there's all kinds of other things like graft that are hard to measure that cut into the ability for earnings to grow, things like taxes, etc. And if revenue has grown a lot because of debt, government spending, and that has to come back, maybe revenue will go down again. So it's really hard to tell if equities will really go up that much. I'd be careful assuming that. SPY down 1.2% here. I don't regret my degree. I'm just joking, like kind of an economist joke. Chinchilla got it.